committee workshop to get to order on Thursday, June 20th, 2024, 11 a.m. Public comment, anybody in the audience make public comment? On Zoom, raising their hand?
Not at this time.
Okay. Yeah, so you had sent over the revenue and expenditure report for Elpina County for 24. Everybody got it on their computer?
Yes.
I'd like to go down these thing in the line item. I mean, shows everything that green is mandated service. Anything in the white is discretionary, and anything in the or yellow, I mean, is grant funded.
Just
Right.
clarification on it. On the one that was sent over, the green was actually separating the departments.
Okay.
Each of the departments were sent this report and asked to verify, go through and make sure that the items that were mandatory were highlighted in green. Those that were grant funded were highlighted in yellow. To date, the only department that has responded is the IT department. I handed that one out. So we'll be getting pieces of this back together and be building. So this would be the example, but the true copy is a work in progress. Just waiting for confirmation from the other.
I know when I went through and I edited, I had some questions and I edited, took them from the black into the red so I could, I think it's the same
I
thing.
started it, but
I started, we never got a chance to finish up because I had to teach them how to highlight it.
my Excel spreadsheet skills
No worries.
have been dormant for a while.
So we can basically start going down it and look at stuff. And there's some stuff that's been, I know, Kim, we always, have that $800,000.
So I need to know which spreadsheet you're referring to. I don't have that
One that you
spreadsheet
sent
up.
over to me.
So that's the one that I sent.
Yeah.
So let me even get to that spreadsheet. And this, the one that's dated.
Get the right one, John.
As soon as I get past the circle of death with my computer here. Oh, that's exactly what we call it. Putting my budget, here we go. So this was the general fund and it had your revenue and expense report and
Sure.
so on and so forth. And this was as of, get up to the top, as of June 12th, 24.
June 12th, yep,
That's the top corner.
yep,
Okay.
yep, that's the one. So going down this thing, I mean, we always have that surplus at the end of the year, where not a surplus, but I mean, we're always $800,000. How you want to,
Well, the $800,000 is what we
What
put
we-
in the last couple.
no, I'm talking about not the surplus, but the money that we don't spend. It's always shown, we're budgeted for 1.5, we're not, we're usually comes down to about
So
800.
really what you want to know, let me pull a whole
Yeah.
report, is between what you originally budgeted and what you originally spent, what the difference is. So let me pull that report for you. I can pull it up for several years. So that you have information.
That's what I'm getting at. I mean, the budget,
It's roughly 300,000 to 400,000 initially. The last few years, it's been between 5 and 7. But again, if you just let me bring it up.
yep,
And we're still waiting for our numbers from our auditor for 23. So what I'm going to give you for your 23 numbers are unaudited at this time. That has not been complete. All those adjustments have not been made. So we want to do a budget report. 20. I'm not gonna pull the 24 because obviously we're nowhere near.
Sure.
I'm just gonna pull 21, 22, and again 23. And let me get rid of And I'm assuming at this point you are only referring to the general fund. You don't want to
No.
know about the other
No.
64 funds.
The question while she's looking.
Yeah.
Jesse, you made reference to no one else responding to that email. We all read it as we weren't supposed to unless there was an error.
It specifically said there's corrections and there are, all of them needed corrections.
Okay,
So, I mean, like, for example, you'd emailed Jennifer earlier today and said some of these things, those should have been corrected and then sent back.
but the email that we got, I believe it was from Kim McGartner. I read it as we didn't need to reply unless there was something. So that's why no one else replied. You said only IT replied.
All of them had something wrong with it, though. I mean,
Well, just so I would just say that if Jesse, any of those departments, if you could just review it and then reply back,
yeah, so just if it's a mandate,
and send out another email, just,
I'll put a clarification.
Okay, because I mean, it looked.
Okay.
I just didn't, maybe we had to reply unless.
Because in reviewing it, for example, each of you would have had highlighted in green longevity. That's not a mandated service.
Mhm.
So then you would have unhighlighted that and sent it back.
Oh, okay.
If it was grant funded, you would highlight it in yellow, you know.
And just for clarification, that everybody understands the definition of a mandated service. A mandated service, mandated to me is if there's a statute that's out there, that's required, obviously, by law. Anything else, unless there's something else that I'm missing in my definition of the mandated service, that, everything else is discretionary.
But the
That is-
union contract actually mandate, the union contract as it is right now actually does mandate that longevity it's in the contract.
Those things are contracted.
So I will
Okay.
use them. Do you just want the state mandated or do you just want
well,
as
because
per the union contract?
I would think that we.
Because that can
obviously,
change.
Just
We can't change the longevity if we're in a contract, so.
clarification, no, the contracts are up this year for many of these
That
offices.
can change.
So longevity is not mandated. It's contractually, we're obligated, but that wouldn't matter in fiscal
Okay, so
2020.
you just want like the state statute mandated.
Yeah,
Okay.
but not all contracts are up this year.
No, but some of them are. The TPOAM
I think the
and 911.
I guess I want to make sure that everybody that's participating understands what the definition of mandatory is, of
So
mandated.
that is why I sent out the document to
She
the
sent out.
department heads yesterday. And Jesse has it as well. Let me bring that up as well.
Okay.
So let's see, where do I want to go? It's not gonna let me. Anyways, I can send it to you. It's a document that was from 2017 that goes on to explain for the state of Michigan the mandated services, what's considered a core service, what's considered a mandated service. As it goes down and explains it, and I send it to every department head so they can have that information as they're working through to be able to determine what is and is not. And I can forward that to all the commissioners as well. You start on page 18 and it runs through like 27 or 28.
Jesse, that's the documents you sent last night?
Yes.
Okay, we've got those in, Kim. I just,
You've got those?
yeah, we've got those.
Jesse,
Thank you. Yeah,
All your department heads have received that as well.
got it. Okay.
So in 21, you were originally budgeted to spend $1,256,840 more than you brought in. Actual audited spent $7,889 more than you brought in. In 22, you were originally budgeted to spend $1,263,971 more than you brought in. You actual audited spent $43,413 more than you brought in. In 23, you were budgeted to spend $1,452,018 more than you were budgeted to bring in. To date, because we have not received all of our final adjustments for the audit, but to date for 23, you spent $905,259 more than you brought in. But that being said, this up as well, in your ARPA money that you brought across for 21 and 22. Okay, so. And unfortunately, we changed charts of accounts. Even in 22, you transferred $802,500 from ARPA money into your general fund. So without that, you'd have had that much more of a deficit in 22. And in 23, you have transferred 300,000. In 21, you transferred $799,100 of ARPA money into your general fund. So without that ARPA money, you would have been losing between $700,000 and $800,000 a year from your fund balance. And that is what it looks like we are on target to do for this, for 23, even with bringing 300,000 ARPA money over.
Going through this stuff, I mean, I know, like, again, we always look at, there's money we haven't spent, right? And as the budget looks at some of these expenditures, we're budgeting for so much and we're not only spending a certain percentage. I'd like to see it get closer to, but if we're going to spend $100 per year, I'd rather not budget for $500 a year or $5,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? Get the budget more closer, so we're closer at the end of the year than having all these that make a swing every year. I know just on some of them, I'll pick on, let me go down here, and I'll pick on somebody. Find it right here for it.
So this is as of June. So part of the issue is if you look at your original budget and then you have your quarterly budget adjustments.
Yeah.
Where you make those adjustments generally to your revenue, because your revenue keeps coming in higher and higher. So this budget you're looking at has already had, 1 quarter of budget adjustments. And you guys continually make budget adjustments basically with every Ways and Means and full board.
Again, let me look at, example of this sheriff, I'm not picking on, but just the ones I've highlighted. Like corrections officer overtime. It's about half, we're over half the year and we're still percentage wise, we're only at 38%. That's, again, there's $68,000 spent right now and there's $175,000 budgeted.
This year we projected to have part-timers,
Yeah.
knowing that we want to alleviate overtime. So we'll plan on that, hopefully getting that number down.
Yeah, that's why it's down, yeah. But again, when we do the budget, I'd like to see it a little bit closer. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the hard thing is, and I know Justin and I were just talking about this one, professional services, and I don't know it was Clark Hill, where did that fall under?
Clark Hill generally, a lot of times is going to be under legal services, under county general, it's going to be 101, 200, and let me get into the rest of it here.
Oh, yeah, professional service, 200-801,
But there is a legal services,
outside attorney fees, yeah.
outside attorney fees is generally where really that should be being paid from, all your Clark Hill bills.
Because that's the one where, we didn't budget enough for that one out of the blue, because of those issues. That one's at like 121 amended budget right now. So I get what you're saying, Bill, to be more realistic, to be closer, but we're gonna have those things
Yeah.
that we did not expect. I know that Justin and I keep talking about finding a new thing that either didn't have enough money covered under it or we weren't expecting it.
And that's,
The other thing is like we're still trying to. Getting employees and retaining them is, you're in the restaurant business.
yeah,
It's next to impossible. So to get that streamlined to exactly where we need to be, it's not gonna happen. We can do our best, try to get part-timers, try to alleviate overtime. And that's why it's less than 50%. So we've done that.
yeah.
And that $800,000 swing is not just expenses. A majority of it is revenue,
Revenue's down.
No revenue coming in.
additional revenue coming in.
Higher than
from
expected.
what you originally budgeted. Part of that is going to be in your operating tax. Because your county operating tax, when we put the budget together, we do not have a crystal ball, or we haven't in the past used a crystal ball. We take this year's property tax values and we calculate a budgeted amount of county operating off of this year's. But by the time that county operating is actually sent out and to be brought in, it's off of next year's taxable values. So there was a $300,000 swing in county operating taxes last year between what was originally budgeted and where we ended up, just because of the difference in those taxable values. Now, years past, we haven't seen, this 5 and 6% difference that we're seeing now. This will probably not continue. It may continue. So for a plan, for a budget, if you want your county treasurer to take our current tax value and add 5% and then calculate what to budget for 25, that will be closer than to what I would budget if I used this year's taxable values, assuming there's actually a 5% increase next year. And if I budget for that 5% increase in taxable value against the value, against the levies, and then we only see a 2% increase, then you have over budgeted your revenue.
Yeah.
So there's many of these pieces across the board, and especially with your grants. We budget the full grant amount to come in. It's a reimbursement grant. We may or may not see it. Depends if they don't spend it and we don't see it and they carry over to different years. There are lots of moving parts to this budget.
Well, it behooves us that we better get it figure it out, get it closer. I mean, we're looking at that deficit for next year. And we have to either have the Headley or we have to have some major cuts. I know I've looked at this thing, and one of the things that just myself personally, but I'm going to bring it up, that I'd rather cut the commissioner's wages and save a job someplace. I've looked at the figures there. I mean, we're taking in, we're spending 13,733 for commissioner. I have no problem going down to $6,000 and saving about $80,000 in commissioner's expenses for next year. That'd be one might be one deputy, there might be one someplace else in the thing. I don't know what the rest of the commissioners are going to say on that, but I have no problem doing that. So
So I want to go back to before we move on to that, Bill, go back to the identified budget or amended budget column versus actual expenses. And I found two areas that I think at least needs a deeper dive. And I haven't seen everything below and the rest of the budget yet. So if the trend continues, I think there's some savings there and what it would do. I'd be willing to meet with every department head and go through their budget line by line and see if their budgeted expenses can be adjusted, especially adjusted as an event. And Jesse, I know you're brand new in your positions, but I'm going to use that county administrator as an example. So right now it shows in the 2024 amended budget, there's a $97,000 figure. And then, so you go to the column F, there's a $85,769 available balance. Well, I think at that point, we go back and estimate Jesse's salary expense, correction, the county administrator's salary expenses, and we can probably adjust about $30,000 from that.
27,000.
And I'm just doing real
No, it's okay.
rough.
You're right.
Well, that's a $27,000 difference based upon what our amended budget indicates versus what we really think the actual expenses are going to be. And then I go down to, and again, I'm not pointing out to anybody in particular, but down to dues and subscriptions for, again, the 101-200. We budgeted $15,500 and spent $950, which is a $14,500 difference. Can that,
No. So this is one of my cautions.
okay,
These adjustments that you're referring to are in the 24 budget.
yes,
So we could not put these adjustments into the 25 budget because we won't have that savings because we will have an administrator all year rather than a partial year. And like the dues and subscriptions, many times things are budgeted and they're only paid once a year.
sure.
So without doing a historical 21, 22, 23, so you can see what was actually spent. So out of that 15,000, there may be a $10,000 something that gets paid every November.
Understand.
We're not going to see that at this time.
But the,
So there's all those kind of,
Well,
but the department head should know that, they should know what their
Yes.
historical trends are, right? Because they're the ones that put that information in. This is what I think my budget,
actually, Mary Catherine put this 15,000 in.
I get it. She was the
Well, she
department
was the
head.
department head.
Thank you.
Yes.
So every department head, if they have just to ask them, have you accurately reflected that? Because then it goes back to, I don't want to get a false sense of hope that we're going to have $700,000 that I'll call that clawback or whatever available from 24 budget for the future.
Right, and it again, it's not, even if you take the 700,000 and you say half of it is additional revenue that wasn't originally budget and half of it was expenditures, it's not something that you can definitely say it's coming out of here, or it's coming out of there.
I understand that.
Well, I got a couple points here. One is when we sat down during October, November, every year we do the same thing. We go through this slowly, line by line, if you will, each department or whatever, and we look at, like you just said, the historical, the last 5 years.
So you have something to compare it to.
You've literally said, oh, look, this is because Kim just nailed it too with there could be stuff, like she said in October that we're going to get hit. So that we have to reserve that money. And that's when you're going to see that, that 5-year history. And I think we've pretty much narrowed the gap on some of those things. Obviously with the legal fees, when we go back next year and look at this year, we're going to say, oh, look at the huge increase. And then we're going to have to figure out why that went up so much. But I think we've pretty much narrowed, if you will, the gap on where we're trying to, gradual increases every year because nothing's going down, everything's going up. It's not like we're going to get services that are a lot cheaper. But then the other thing that I wanted to kind of touch on, because you said you would be willing to go into with each department head. Jess and I had talked about this, and what we did was we talked about 2 commissioners tackling each section to try to figure out, or not each section, but look at different departments and then tackling each department and maybe, like you just said, go meet with those. Because obviously you can't go meet with every single, or you shouldn't have to go meet with every single department. But I think it's more realistic if we break it into groups of 2 and we say, okay, and right now I've got you and Dan listed as the 2 to go, and we'll figure out what departments we want you to go look at, and then go meet with them and then see if there's a place that you can make those changes.
Johnny, you and I both retired from the military, and you were in finance, and I had dealt with budgets, and we did quarterly and particularly mid-year reviews. So what I'm looking at in this particular is a mid-year review. Okay, we're halfway through our fiscal/calendar year. are these, based upon historical trends and what we've expended so far this year with the department head, do you think that this is an accurate budget? Because of, again, you paid in the third quarter or whatever, but to do just that, I think.
Well, and again, I'm gonna give Jesse the credit for this because he said, how about if we, a way to tackle this is if we break it down into groups of, commissioners. And then, so the next to follow will be, we're gonna go through this and figure out which departments, which areas you should focus on. So that way, we're not gonna give you all the big ones like the sheriff and then I'll take the administrator section.
Drain commissioner. Okay, yeah, I think that's what we may need to do is like a mid-year review and make sure that we validate the budgeted expenses versus what they think is, closer to what their actual expenditures may be. That's all I think we need to
Get a
do.
better idea too, like we just said. Logan may have some stuff that, or I don't know, we're just talking about the dues and subscription for the 15,000.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but there could be stuff. We know that he's probably gonna have a whole pile of stuff that we probably aren't thinking of, but he knows is coming.
Right.
The other thing that I want to mention too, again, credit to Jesse, hope your head's not getting too big over.
I was gonna say.
But he's one of the things, as we had this discussion about the two commissioners meeting with the different department heads and stuff like that. One of the things that he just mentioned to me when he was talking to IT was just having that conversation with him. He found out there's other areas that potentially we could have additional revenue. So that could be the other part of that conversation is, meet individually with these department heads and say, and I know Jesse has been talking to equalization as well and had some comments and thoughts about some things there. But I think that if we do that, one, it's a perfect time for this because like you just said, it's mid-year.
Your review.
Yep, we see where we are, if we're on track. We can try to figure out where potentially, if there are potential ways to cut anything moving forward. And then potentially even see if there's any additional revenue that we could look.
John, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
So last July 17th of 23, Commissioner Francisco had me put together a general fund comparison report for 2019 through 2023 has a breakdown per line. You have your original budgeted and where you ended up for every single line item within the general fund through, I said, for each of those years. Have that information. I am sending you all that spreadsheet as we speak, and it's broke down for department page and for general fund. So you have some historical data to work with as well.
I had one quick question, Kim, on the airport. We've been receiving money for the airport through the part of the COVID money.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with general fund.
Okay.
Yep.
But before we used to, the general fund used to support the airport.
Yes.
So that,
General fund. So depending on how things move forward, because there is no longer any ARPA operation dollars coming in. And I know that's one of the reasons why they moved towards selling fuel, airplane fuel. But at this point, the airport fund does have enough to pay its own bills. It's holding its own. I'm not sure how long it's going to. But when and if the airport is in a situation that they cannot cover their terminal bond payment, that's a little over $150,000 a year. And the general fund also was having to supply money to cover the grounds contract as well. We just have to wait and see. But the airport fund is potential that the airport fund could cost the general fund between $250,000 and $300,000 a year easily just to keep it going. I don't see that happening in the next couple of years. The airport does have fund
when I
balance.
first got on the board, we were subsidizing the airport.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because the airport does not generate enough to cover all its expenses. And anytime you guys sign these bonds, whether you're expecting the pool to pay them or airport to pay them, it is the county that is responsible for making these loan payments if those funds do not have the money to pay that.
I had one question on the,
Anyway, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I bounced back and I wanted to bring up that point to see if that was a course of action that we could follow. But then you were talking about commissioners.
Those are the correct. The administrator, 38.
Okay. Yeah, again, Jesse, I wasn't, you've been very busy. I get that. So
I
just,
appreciate.
and it's near the top, so
I had it on my list too, you know, I mean, those are,
Okay.
and the nice thing too, I think with the administration, it's different than other line items, because that's pretty much a set. You know, unless there's gonna be like a weird increase or decrease, you know, in my insurance or something like that, you know, it really doesn't.
So
It doesn't moderate. Fluctuate.
I have a question. I think it's an excellent idea. You want to sit down with these budgets and go, you know, with the departments and kind of have this discussion. There was some discussion previously about each department having a spreadsheet of their budget. One of the issues is if money is budgeted, then the line item shows up. If money is not budgeted, there can still be line items that you use once every 3 years that you're not going to see depending on how these spreadsheets are pulled. So we get back to who pulling these spreadsheets. It was my understanding that the administrator used the, I'm not be able to think of the name, Munitrex, had you guys purchase the bigger packages of Munitrex because she could use, and the department heads could use a better spreadsheet system. And that the administrator was pulling the spreadsheets from the Munitrex system so that the departments could set up their budgets going forward. I don't know if that ever happened the last 2 years. I never seen one come through from my department, and we use the good old BSNA. But if you're looking for those spreadsheets for the departments to be pulled from the treasurer's office, we need some heads up and what you want. Or if you're going to use the Munitrex system, which I was given to the understanding that each department head was able to log in and do this themselves. I really don't know if that's possible. Yeah, so that'd be something. It was my understanding. Lyndon, did you say you had worked with Mary Catherine on some?
I have, yes.
So, you know, I think it's a great idea, but again, unless I get some direction, I don't, because realistically, going forward, you guys need to decide, do you want your treasurer's office doing this or do you want your administrator's office doing this? And either way is fine, but this is a good time for you guys to make that kind of decision as to how you want to.
especially if you're leaving at the end of the year.
Well, and if what I have been told is true, that the new Munitrex system that we've logged into, and I have no reason to believe it's not, you know, that we're paying so much more for, you know, our subscription went from 2,000 a year to over 7,000 a year, so that we have this available for everyone to use. You know, we're looking at locking into a 3-year contract with this as well. It'd be a shame not to use it,
Sure.
especially being as you're looking at all this. But so I'm just saying this is something else that really needs to be looked at here within the next few weeks as
Yeah,
well.
we were in limbo for the last 4 months because of not having an administrator.
No, I get that.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are your thoughts, Jesse?
I was gonna ask, when we got the bigger package, were the department heads, did they go through a training, Lynn, do you know of? Or did we just get the bigger package and that's where we kind of ended?
I don't remember that part. I just know.
I guess
they were
have department heads in the room.
They're training.
We're going through any type of training on how to use.
So
I think the only instruction I ever got was any capital.
Okay,
I didn't even get any instruction. I've never even been on it, so
So
it wasn't even delivered to me.
so Chair,
department heads don't really didn't get training. I don't think that's gonna
yeah.
happen then. I mean,
Okay, Chairman, what,
training.
yeah, what I'd like to do is maybe a 3-pronged approach. I could partner with Kim because I'm gonna rely on her. I'm still learning
Oh,
these
yeah.
systems myself.
Oh, you don't have it all
Um,
down pat.
Had this,
We've been here 3 weeks, come on.
yeah.
What have you been doing?
I know. Lynn, can we get a hold of Unitrix and see if we can set up maybe a training for our department heads? Maybe we can organize with them to kind of get them started in getting used to it. I don't think we'll probably be able to use it too much this year. Just because we're pretty much gonna be elbows deep here shortly as far as.
Is Munetrix more user-friendly than your information? I don't understand why we would do that, but anyway.
Okay, so why would we do that? The system that I'm aware of with BSNA won't go out 2 and 3 years. I
Okay.
mean, it does, but it's never been explored for each department head or even be able to do that. Whereas with Munitrix, with it, if it dumping it automatically into a spreadsheet, it's very easy generally to project out 2, 3 years on a spreadsheet.
Okay.
Once you have it in.
But Munetrix, does it draw the data from the county treasurer's office, if you will?
The county treasurer has been sends a download.
Okay.
And they have our historical data.
Okay.
Because they pull our audits.
Okay. Okay. So they're using
So-
treasurer data.
So, and because it was the previous administrator who worked directly with Munitrix, having those discussions, how to move forward with those budget, I wasn't in on that, so I cannot tell you that for sure.
Okay.
I'm just thinking if we're paying the extra for the bigger package, so the department heads had access to this. We either utilize it or we go back to this simpler package and save the money, but right now, if we have this tool that could be utilized by our department heads, but
I mean, if-
They have this historical data there.
Yeah.
They won't have 23s, but they'll have,
Well, the 23 audit has to be filed
by the
by
30th.
July, hopefully July 1st. And hopefully we have it filed by then.
So here's my thought. Here we are, we're trying to figure out where we can save money from. And we have almost duplicitous data processing tools. We could save some money by focusing on the one that we have through BSNA, which is our official data and, counting the money, if you will. I don't see why we would continue with that. That's just my opinion at this point in time. And I don't know what
It's got
Munetrix
a lot
does for us.
more stuff on there, Kim. I mean, Lynn,
It does. I'm also like the departments. I'm not also, I was just kind of thrown into it. So I wasn't trained either. So it's really.
It does also, your CIP reports and that big BSNA does not do. I mean, that I know for sure.
But we have this system, we have your system, obviously, through BSNA, and then we have this Munetrix system. And it's a great system, but if nobody knows how to use it or is using it, we'd have to do one of two things: train and get everybody to use that system, or we just say, you know what, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, and we just don't do that if we focus on the one that everybody can and should use. The official through document or the system through BSNA. That's my thought.
I just want to make one point, and I don't know if this was my interpretation. That just so we're all clear that the purpose of our committee isn't, so we're not going to fix the budget. We're not going to, we're creating the process and the timelines that go into this budget. So as a group of three, we're not going to create budgets, but we're going to come up with like the suggestions to have the committees, have the two commissioners go out and discuss with those. So like I said, we don't have to solve this because again, you all know that we have historically done our budgeting in October, November, where all the commissioners are part of that. And I think that's more realistic on how we need to be all involved in that process.
Okay.
We're gonna figure out how to get from A to B.
I'll get back from the tactical perspective then to get up to the strategic perspective then. Instead of dwelling down and looking at the eaches, at least right now.
Well, I guess, Chairman, before we go, we did skip over the treasurer's presentation.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
before we go back in.
So for your financial report for the end of May. So you started the year with an unaudited fund balance of $3,463,589.09. What I'd like to point out is that last year you had an audited fund balance of $4,449,718.59. So that means you're starting the year with almost $1 million less than you had for 2023. We had actual revenue collected through May 31st of $3,542,943.33, which is $600,000 more than last year. For actual expenditures, we've spent $5,468,125,078, which is about $150,000 more than we had spent at the same time last year. If you look at our general fund balance at the end of May, it shows $1,538,464. Whereas the previous year we had $2,047,968. So we're $500,000 lower. Started with $1 million less. Our expenditures are higher. I do expect this to continue.
Treasurer Lobo, can I just ask real quick on
Certainly.
that fund balance? Because it's unaudited, traditionally, do you see that number swing higher or lower? Is it kind of unknown?
Well, previously, again, we've just switched from cash accounting to accrual accounting, which is going to skew things a little bit this first year as well. But traditionally, there's less than $100,000 swing between what we have here and where we end up with the audited.
Okay.
So next year, if I start my fund balance, unrestricted fund balance at 3.5, and I'm gonna spend $1 million of it, how long is that gonna last?
Right.
And the percentage wise, we're down, give me the number on the percentage wise when we have automatic layoffs and 19 point.
Oh, 19.47 for layoffs across the board, but it's 24.9 for all your 24.9 for all your part-time, temporary, and I believe there is something in there questioning the grant positions as well.
Okay.
There's something I can. This decides to.
24.9 would probably be, what, 2.5,
2.5 million-ish.
2.5 million.
So, let me see. So I was playing with some of your projected unrestricted fund balances. And I had put this together on May 24th of this year. So this was using your unaudited fund balance plus your reserve, your budgeted 24 expenses as of May 24th, and just using those exact same expenses going forward, because that's what you're looking at when your percentages, you're looking at your expenses. So we me see, a projected unrestricted fund balance of $1,721,706 at the end of 24, which is a 13.05% of your budgeted expenses if your expenses stayed the exact same.
Questions on that?
No, it doesn't look good.
Doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good.
Don?
No,
So we have to. If you want to start, we can start picking out some of these committees where we're going to send people,
um,
department heads.
yeah, I would think,
Looking for a kind of some of these departments. Some of these departments that are listed aren't going to be ones that we can really go into. So we can get a list, and then if you want, you can figure out, you can do the committee appointment today and we can figure out the timeline.
Yeah,
And then you can appoint those departments to the committee by email.
okay,
I'd like to get something out before election day,
Yeah.
you know?
Sooner the better. Again,
So if
We can go down, why don't you just go down, Jesse, and, 101,
okay.
everything, and we'll just. work
well,
there.
so obviously, like I was just saying, I don't want to give
Yeah, well, that's right,
one
yeah.
group of people
No,
a bunch
no,
of big ones.
no.
Um,
So you could do the committee appointments and then kind of give me a calendar as far as when you guys would like
So you're
to.
saying who, let's give you the names here.
Yeah,
Right,
Yeah.
those are the ones that I think you had typed up and left. And then just one other note too, just to take into consideration is you could start kind of a soft launch on this. Because really a lot of this, we kind of do the work that you and Commissioner Francisco mentioned, but then really get into the nitty gritty in August, once we kind of figure out where we land.
Yep.
So we can kind of do like a provisional one, because I mean, ready to do one as detailed as what we usually do with the budget. I don't know if you're gonna be able to accomplish that before the Headley, but you could definitely give some recommendations.
Okay,
but I think we did tell the public that we were going to provide two budgets. One, with the Headley, if the Headley rollback is approved, and one if it is not, and what that looks like. And that's what I think that's what I don't want to say promise, but that's what we discussed providing to the people. So when they went to the polls, they would have that information. Now,
In order to provide that, you'd have to have the full board though participating.
well, you'd have to literally, like we do in October, November, sit there and spend a lot of
Yeah.
time just going through that. And I don't know how realistic that is, in a short period of time that,
yeah, with
because
the 2
we
months,
could literally spend the next month
right?
doing that to get.
And it's roughly only 6 weeks to the election.
I was going to say, we're only a month and a half up with early voting. Yeah, well, I guess we can't, again, if my understanding of what we thought we were going to provide then is a misunderstanding, then fine. But otherwise than that, we're not going to be able to provide what we thought we could.
I think that, either way, we'll get there,
Oh, yeah.
but it may not be as quickly as we would hope to be able to provide that to the voters.
Agreed.
So one of the other things I want to kind of bring to everyone's attention, and Carrie and I had discussed this, previously, all your department heads have been told, don't put any payroll information in. Well, unfortunately, you kind of need the payroll information
Sure.
because that is 75 to 80% of everyone's budget.
Sure.
And for the clerk's office to repeatedly annually calculate these, which she has to do, and then dump them into BSNA and then get them into whatever system you guys are using, all for us to just be constantly fluxing and moving. I would recommend at this point, and said I talked to the clerk about this as well, that they use last year's numbers, at least plug that in. So, because it's a constant moving target. If you want to plug it in and you say, okay, we know this union's getting a 3% raise, they can do that. Each of your department heads are more than capable of doing that. It at least gives you a placeholder. Because otherwise, the more times by we, I mean the clerk, has to calculate a payroll, dump it in, and then dump it again into a spreadsheet. Like anything else, the more times you flip something over and the more times you handle it, the more chance there are for mistakes. So at this point, if you want your department heads to put their budgets together and go through everything, I would recommend that they use the current payroll numbers and
They
benefits and so on and
know
so
what the
forth.
percentage is going up for wages next year. They can always calculate that.
Right, yeah. Yeah, because we don't know what our insurance is gonna cost us next year or this, that, or the other thing, but you need something as a placeholder.
Up with
Yeah,
using these-
I know we used to get those budgets. We never had the wages in them. So it was, and we're just trying to cut from paper.
And the wages is, 75 to 80% of your budget.
Yeah.
It just is. Wages and benefits, I should say.
So we'll leave that open then, so they get that, just when we do the budget, we'll just take and put the wages right in there right off the bat. And then what department heads knowing that their percentages, they're gonna have to calculate that in for their raises and all that stuff.
I mean, I can probably put in like stuff like workers' comp and social security and stuff like that, but like base wages and
So you're gonna review all of their spreadsheets to put that in?
No.
So that's what I'm saying. When you calculate it and you push it, you're pushing it into the BSNA and it's locking in
Yeah.
basically what's happened. Then we'd have to take it out of there, flip it again into a spreadsheet to send out to each department. And then when they bring their spreadsheet back, dump the spreadsheet back in, and then at the end of the year, when we're totally have your right numbers, you dump that back into BSNA again, which completely changes everything.
does, yeah.
So other than to have a placeholder starting, that's why I'm recommending you use your current numbers.
Okay.
You're still gonna do all your part at the end.
So I'd like, when we, John, I talked about the process as we go ahead and meet with department heads, I'd like a couple of things. One, have them look at the current 2024 budget as a mid-year review, specifically their budgeted expenses and revenues, obviously, as well. Look at that and to validate that we have as accurate as possible a picture of what we're going to be, how we're going to end up the year. Okay, and then when we look at FY 25, we can, use the status quo, as far as the expenses, but if we look at, if we do not get the additional, was it 7.4 mils or something like that, Ted?
Somewhere in it.
Yeah, somewhere in there, if we don't get that increase, what, go ahead.
0.74.
Say again?
0.7.
I'm sorry, yes, 0.74. We got the decimal.
Give us 7 bills.
Yeah, 0.74, yeah.
We're all-
It should be good then.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we would, yeah, that's right.
We all-
No, then, look at what our revenues would be with that or without it, and then we would know what we're gonna have.
Their revenues, so when you look at the general fund,
Mhm.
you're looking at, their revenues aren't really gonna be affected by that.
Okay,
By department. The biggest place, the only place you're gonna see that change is in the 101-200 department,
right,
which is the county operating.
Right.
And we can get you that number and plug it in,
okay,
but they're not gonna see until you. The general fund budget is like a big puzzle. And until you get all the pieces of the puzzle together and have it flow all the way down to the end, you don't see that end number.
understand.
So
But we need to do something to best estimate what that's.
start getting the puzzle pieces together.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's what I would like to, see us focus on as soon as possible.
How you doing?
I got a question, and it's off topic, so I'm gonna say it. I think we need to figure out a way to go out and sell this to the community, because if we're starting voting in a week, like, we'd be better off subdividing groups to go talk to groups and people so we can get this thing passed.
Well, the only marketing so far that's been done is thanks to the Alpena News. They've had that information in a couple of different news articles in the paper, Steve being the lead reporter on that. And I mean, there's been about 2 in the last couple, 3 months, at least that. Yeah, there's been a number of them.
This goes back.
Now, that's really not marketing, but it's at least providing information to the public, Sheriff. So,
Oh, I get that, but like, you think about how villages are passed and stuff, it's by going to special interest groups and the public and educating them, and so they have you know, knowledge on what they're voting for. Right now, I don't think they have that, and unless we do that, I don't know what to do for that. Just my thoughts.
Yes, and I thought you were organizing something with that.
I was, but technically, yeah, that's kind of outside of this
Yeah,
About this.
official.
Yeah.
But yes, there's stuff coming down the pike. Sheriff, maybe I could talk to you after this and there could be a discussion on that. So I guess timeline wise, do you still want to have the budget? I mean, last year we had it pretty late in the year. If I remember, beginning of December, end of November, we had it done. Do you want it done a little bit sooner this time? Or are we still looking at that particular?
If God forbid that we don't get the Headley,
Yeah,
we can always go back to the November ballot, right?
tweak, yeah,
So I mean, I'd look at something in September,
okay,
with the budget done in September.
okay.
And that's doable.
Good luck. No.
yeah.
No.
Realistically, it'll be up to your department heads. Now, by saying budget done, are you saying all your department heads go through all their spreadsheets and get everything back and put in for September 1st?
No, I'm not saying sometime in December or 1st of October, sometime like that.
Well, that is our normal
Yeah.
schedule, the end of
I see where you're
September, the
going.
1st of October. We had those budgets ready, so
I think we could try to, with these groups that I'm talking about, focus and get that mid-year review done and start looking at potential, you know, maybe decreases or increases in revenue, and then be better prepared for when we come into October, because I feel like when we go into October, in the past few years, we've just kind of shown up, and I don't feel, I haven't felt like we've really accomplished much. I think if we start this process now, and then have these groups meet with the department heads, talk to the department heads, I think we will be better prepared for by the time we get to October. And I believe we could be even further along in the process, so that way before the November election, we would have, I think we could potentially have something available.
so
We would need to, because usually we're kind of floundering around in November, you know, always at the last minute and then getting it approved at the,
December meeting.
yeah, for the 2 weeks.
well, yeah, because again, back to has to go on display. So you're gonna want to look at, you know, actually adopting
Yeah,
a budget, the first full board / Ways and Means in December. You know, by having these meetings with the department head and kind of going over things, I think it will help your department heads put in a truer picture of where we're at, so that if you have these meetings throughout July and then you ask that they have their, again, whoever they're sending these quote unquote final spreadsheets to, whether it's to the administrator's office, the treasurer's office, to then be put into BSNA. If you say, okay, in July, we're going to go through everything, and first part of August, you're going to get this to your treasurer, and then we're going to try and get it in. You could have a meeting the mid of August to see where you're at.
Jesse, you know, we're talking about Munetrics versus BSNA. If you could, I mean, just contact some of them are here, but you don't have to do it now, but get a hold of the department heads and find out if that's something, do they want to use Munetrics, or are they fine with using I mean, I don't care particularly. I want the department heads
So
to use whatever they feel comfortable with.
your department heads have not been sent a spreadsheet from BSNA in the past.
Okay.
This was something that was brought forward when it was indicated you wanted them to provide more than one budget and you wanted them project out.
Right.
They can put a budget directly into BSNA, but it's not going to be in a spreadsheet. That's what they're used to doing.
Okay.
My office can create the spreadsheet from BSNA for every department and email it to them, have them work on it and then send it back to us, then we still have to manually put these back into the system. It's going to be that way either way if you want your departments to do this in a spreadsheet, whether they come from my office or they come from the administrator's office.
Okay.
So if I could, and it's funny because a lot of what Treasurer Ludlow just suggested is kind of what I had drafted as a rough draft of what maybe it would look like as far as the calendar goes. So if we did kind of stay with the same deadline of November, the appointment of the subcommittees could be done still this month, just, via email, or at Tuesday's full board. You could start doing your meetings within the subcommittee groups with each department through July. And then starting sometime in mid-August through mid-December or September rather, you could have the departments come in and give a presentation, with that subcommittee's findings and their conversations. The department heads could come in and kind of do a line by line of their budget. You could then do a first draft of the budget in September, so we'd still have it out kind of as Commissioner Peterson would like. So people have an idea if we do have to put something on the November ballot. It'd give the full committee kind of time to go through it. You could go through and do kind of a second reading of it in October, kind of vamp it up and have it finalized in early November then. That would put us on track to still have it done in time, but it would kind of complete what the chairman would like to do, which is present something in November. It should have to go on the November ballot. If it doesn't, the good thing is if it does pass in August, this timeline also allows for time for this committee to then, review it and send it up to the full board with that adjustment. You could look at it.
Sounds good with that, me.
So, yeah, that sounds fine. So
Okay.
now to the sheriff's point about a marketing strategy, and we're obviously behind the power curve on that one. Is that something that's going to be a formalized plan, or are we just gonna, I'm just asking what the thought is?
I guess the one thing I'm not sure of, and Carrie, I'm not sure if you might know with election law, what can we formally plan as a government entity when it comes to promoting a ballot initiative? Is that something we have to do separate, or, because I know we can't do actual campaigns, but ballot initiatives are a little bit different. I know we can't use obviously public dollars, but.
Right, well, like the library, they formed Friends of the Library. I don't know what the name of the committee was, but they have that, sorry, to raise money for the promotion of their millage. So I think you can probably do something similar if you're going to advertise or campaign, and then people can.
We might be hard pressed finding a
Right.
group of friends of the County Board of Commissioners.
Yeah, I mean, you can't use like your general fund dollars to promote the Headley or any other stuff, but if people want to donate like to a campaign or something, you just have to follow the campaign finance in that aspect of it.
And what's the timeline look at for developing an entity like that? Is that pretty quick turnaround?
Developing the committee?
Yeah, like, and being able to take dollars in?
Yeah, I think you just have to have, your finance, your treasurer bookkeep, you have to fill out the statement of organization for the committee. The structure of it, have your bank account in effect and stuff like that, and then you can start campaigning.
So in order to be in compliance with the board would like, I can look into this on my time off, my lunch hours to kind of make sure we're okay.
I don't think you need to do that. I'm just, the sheriff came up with an idea. They're a pretty good one, but I think we're a little late to need.
Quite honestly, if we educate our employees, all county employees, and they can educate their families,
Yeah.
like having that real conversation with them. Because I've had deputies and corrections officers who come in and they have half the right information. And you gotta educate them, and then they have a different perspective, and I'm like,
Right.
families and their friends, and if you get the right information and we sent them out to do work for us. But it's just communication.
I agree. It basically, it needs to start here within the county. Because again, ultimately, it's going to affect the people that work for us.
Absolutely.
So.
And that committee, you would only have to do that if you're actually spending money, like talking about it. I think, I'm pretty sure you're free to do that as much as you want. If it doesn't cost money, then you're good.
That happened 10 years ago. Time out. We're not talking about 10 years ago. We're talking about today, and it's a real problem, and these are the real issues, and you need to, instead of bitching about it, go tell people the real truth. And that has gone a long way, but We need to do that unified.
Well, again, I go back to my comment about Steve and the Opinion News. They've had several articles in the last 2 or 3 months about identifying that specific problem and concern.
Yes.
Okay.
You're the only one in the room that can't.
That's just my suggestion. Number one, you guys, I don't think you guys can promote it, but you can definitely have people go out to the local groups and organizations and educate them and tell them of the consequences. Okay, in my opinion, Headley is not an easy thing to explain to people.
Right.
Especially in a news story. I have one thing typed up that I cut, copy and paste every time that I'm dealing with this. It needs to be somebody like Ted. Or you guys. On the same
Ed, we're putting you in the spot.
of what Headley is.
So the spokesperson for us.
If there's any sort of confusion, or you guys appear to be confused about Headley,
Right?
you just made a bigger mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
That's my opinion. But the clock is ticking.
Yeah.
Oh, ballots will all have to be, right?
Ed, you gotta get with Steve and do an article.
Yeah.
We're looking for it.
Yeah. But I mean,
Well, that would get more information out to more people than what we can do by going for the next couple of months to service organizations that you would have to be invited to. First of all, and a lot of times they have their agendas already set, so. Just a thought.
I know, and again, I attend my
Township meeting.
township meetings.
When I can.
Explain to them, granted, it's kind of like this, I'm lucky if I got, 5 people in the audience to even be there as township residents, but you're not getting it to the masses like, a big public group or whatever, but I think,
The A+ one, right?
I think, and I don't want to keep calling Ted out, but I mean, unfortunately, Ted, you are the guy with all the knowledge. You're the most experienced, most knowledgeable to speak about Headley in this room, probably.
Even if something could be drawn up.
Well, that's what I was just thinking, and maybe
With facts or.
could you and Jesse work together on something?
Share it on social media. I'd be happy to do that. Share it, hand it out, have a.
social media is the freest form
and,
of
here's another one, Jesse.
advertising.
We have a Alpena County website that we probably should be putting this stuff out there. So I think that's something, and maybe you don't have to be the spokesperson, Ted, but I think you need to at least help Jesse, whoever, that we can put this together, Jennifer, whoever wants to be part of this. I think we need to get a document together to be able to say, this is the effects.
I agree with that. But I think ultimately the verbiage needs to be approved by the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah. Okay, you got till Tuesday. We have a meeting. I don't know, would you be able to work with Ted? I mean,
I already have some stuff offline
Okay.
to share with them.
okay.
Yeah, we can.
I think that definitely, our starting point or starting place should be our county website. We have a county Facebook page that we should be able to use that. And again, maybe that information, that document that we get together could be distributed. You could have documents, we could put it out in the different offices in some place again, I know social media, I don't know a lot about social media. We have Facebook. Do we have any other things?
I think we just have Facebook, don't we?
But if it were made shareable on the Facebook page, then everybody.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not that high tech, so I don't know. But okay, so we'll start with, I think that's a good starting
Yeah.
point. And again, Ted, you are the master of all equalization stuff. So,
I mean, the sheet that Jesse had provided pretty well explains what it's gonna do. So I mean,
well, but even to put it in language where, we can say, this is what's happened.
Yeah, so, oh yeah, okay, I remember this document.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right.
okay, John, you want to get on the committees? You want to?
Yeah,
Well, so what I put together, Jess and I sat down and we talked about, who we should have participating in these
And the school.
individual committees. So we got 2 people, 8 commissioners. What I'd like, unless you,
Not a guarantee. They have to choose to use.
had a discussion going on here and I'm trying to,
This is just allowing.
That's too late for.
so the groups that I have, so I have you and Dan can work together. Bill and myself, not Bill LaHaye and myself. you got a real firecracker on this one, Bill, but you and Robin.
Boy,
Yeah. Well, the choices were Robin or Brenda.
okay, I'll talk about
Yeah.
And then Travis and Brenda.
it. You don't like him?
No, I mean, I think Travis will do fine.
Yeah.
I could probably do Brenda, be with Brenda if I really needed to, so.
Then what, you want to break him down now?
And what are our tasks then?
So I think what we need to do is get that list and then try to break it down from, so one group isn't stuck with the big group.
That has yet to be done yet. It just, this is the pairings, and then we're gonna get assignments by department for each group then. Okay, got it. Got it.
Because I think it'll be easier to look at the departments. And again, I'm not going to give the sheriff's department and, district or whatever departments look overwhelming, all to one group. So.
Okay.
So that's where we'll start.
And it will be determined which office is getting these spreadsheets together.
As far as, I think I would, if you don't.
Yeah, and it's fine. I just need to know, because back when you guys in March had indicated that you would want these spreadsheets to go out to the departments the 1st of July. So July 1st, which by the way is Monday.
Seriously?
Yes. No,
Yeah, come on.
I'm gonna
don't-
say,
Whoa, whoa,
what
whoa,
happened
whoa.
in June?
either way, for me, July 1st, we're going to balance June 1st. And we're going to balance the quarter first. And we're going to do our half a year budget adjustments and all that kind of stuff. So we should be able to have those spreadsheets available to the department for on or about, that's not even in June. Between the 7th and the 10th
Okay,
of July.
that can,
Yeah, we're more than willing to do it. We just need, why do duplicate work and who's doing what and who do you want it to do going forward?
well, I think Jesse will definitely can work. I think you guys can work well together and figure things out, but definitely because you're gonna go and he's new, it would benefit him.
This year kind of be a transition year as to how you guys.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It definitely will benefit Jesse with the transition, so moving forward.
And that will be the plan.
Okay.
Now, on these spreadsheets, normally they have 2 years worth of history and your current year amended budget and where they're at. Do you want more information than that?
I think that's
2 years worth of history,
Yeah,
current, okay.
That's fine.
because it really basically COVID years was skewed up anyway because of the,
We still are.
yeah.
20, the ARPA money,
Yeah.
quite frankly, is COVID money.
Yeah.
And, you still have $800,000 of that sitting there that has to be addressed as well.
Okay,
So Jesse, I assume you're going to send out the tasking on behalf of the chair and you list the instructions. This is what each two-person group is going to be expected to do.
And I'll put the timeline out as well.
Yeah, please do, because there's 3 of us here that kind of know what
Yeah.
to do, but
Absolutely.
yeah, so if you could do that, that would, the instruction packet. That'd be great.
In my office, this is obviously not going to work. We'll send a little note along with the department requesting that they put this budget together, have their review, the commissioner, and then make their adjustments again and send that completed spreadsheet to my office. Hopefully it's going to depend on how long you guys take, but in the first week or so in August
yeah,
is then my office can start entering that information into the BSNA so that you can have something where you can see all the pieces together.
sounds really good.
Yep, that works.
Anything else? Everybody else? got Anything else? Jesse, you got anything else?
Yes, sir.
I think I was a little bit today.
Yep.
Oh, move forward. Anything else? We adjourn.
So I have one other question,
Okay.
because I know you guys have been very, very focused on the general fund, which I get. But you also have 63 other funds. So I need to know, because those 63 other budgets have to be addressed as well. I don't handle all of those budgets myself. Thank you, Lord. But there's like the pool budget and the older person's budget and youth and rec budget and the airport budget. Are you anticipating this be done for all of those funds as well? Yes or no? If not, when do you want me to start moving forward with all those other departments and funds and heads to try to bring this together?
I assumed you wanted
Or,
to do all of them.
Prioritize the general fund ones for
Right,
sure,
yeah,
but to do all of them.
Well, yeah, I think the priority will be the general fund
Fund.
stuff, but then we still need to be working on that. So maybe what we could do is, primary ones, secondary ones, and we can break those out as well.
Okay, I'll work with the treasurer and we can get you that list and then
Okay.
that could be part of the assignments.
Okay.
Okay,
Just so I'm clear, so you're going to work with Ted to come up with a message that can go on the county website, I'm sorry, not administrator, county website and through our Facebook page. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I also heard that Mandy.
Get it out
was
to-
volunteering too.
Yeah, get it out to department heads,
So
they
is
put
there-
it on their Facebook pages.
So
Yeah,
was Kim.
Everybody can put it on.
I think once I get that information, we can do that. And then also I can create maybe a graphic people can share, like their banner.
Like how many of these
Pages,
budgets
stuff like that. So,
you
but yeah, we'll make sure we,
I just want to make sure we had pinned the rows there on that one. So, okay.
All right.
Anything else?
I've got nothing.
Okay. All set, we're adjourned then.
Okay.
Don't leave.
Who are you talking to?